Discover 3 spine-chilling and terrifying desert horror stories revealed from the cursed sands. Jake Thompson never thought losing his job at a tech firm would bring him here, shivering in a dilapidated home on the outskirts of a decaying desert town. The wind whispered doom each night, a haunting melody that set his teeth on edge. He and his wife, Melissa, and their little girl, Emma, were holding on to fading memories of happier times. That ghost of an existence swirled around them, suffocating in its silence, interrupted only by the strange sounds of the barren land cracking earth beneath a ravenous moon. The hills loomed like faded giants, shadowy foreboding figures against the sky. Every morning as he returned from his night shift at the convenience store, exhaustion clung to him like a heavy cloak. Rushing home became a frantic ritual, fear gripping his chest with a vice-like grip. There's something sinister out there. They had settled into a place that buzzed with whispers and barbed smiles. The neighbors appeared friendly, but Jake felt their honeyed words laced with poison. He could hear them chuckle behind closed doors, spinning tales that made his skin crawl. One night, weary and desperate, he turned to the local sheriff, a man whose smile seemed perpetually crooked. "I hear strange sounds at night," Jake admitted, his voice trembling. But the sheriff merely laughed, a hollow sound that echoed in Jake's mind long after their conversation ended. "You're just tired, friend." But it was more than fatigue, it was an encroaching dread that wrapped around his thoughts, twisting them into nightmares. As the sun dipped low, a sucking darkness swelled over the landscape, pulling shadows across his vision. He could feel them watching him. The stories of the lost children haunted him, tales of innocence swallowed by the desert's greedy mouth. The fear clawed at him as Emma played outside, chasing a wayward ball. "Be careful, honey." But in a blink, she was gone. Panic surged through him. She was just in the neighbor's yard, but the sun had tucked away its light, and a cold sweat dripped from his brow. He dashed outside, called out her name, Emma, but the desert swallowed his voice. Images of that old sheriff danced in his mind, the one who haunted the town with dark tales. What if those stories were true? Thrust into a world where innocence falls prey to the sinister, Jake tore into the night, heart racing. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The desert landscape stretched endlessly. With each stride, Jake plunged deeper into the chilling folklore of a community that masked its darkness behind friendly faces. He stumbled across an abandoned mine, where lights flickered and shadows whispered secrets, a chilling echo of those who had never returned. "Emma!" he screamed, raw desperation slicing through the stillness. His voice fell into a suffocating silence as he realized he was not alone. The shadows danced around him, mocking his fear, each corner of the town writhing with a darkness that embraced the lost like a long-lost friend. Something cold gripped his heart as he sensed the watchful eyes of the townsfolk behind the twisted trees, their smiles hinting at a pact far more sinister than mere folklore. With dread pooling in his gut, Jake felt the ground tremble beneath him, pulling him closer to a truth he wished to ignore, a reality where evil lurked just out of sight. "Emma!" he screamed again, now more breathless. The night had stretched its fingers around him, squeezing tighter. And just as a raspy voice echoed across the dunes, a memory clawed at his mind, an innocent laugh, full of warmth and light. Would that laugh guide him home, or lead him deeper into the abyss? The tremors beneath him rattled his bones, a warning of the horror waiting just beyond sight, and as he strained for her, he knew the darkness was hungry. It hungered for him, for his family, and for the danger lurking in the distance. What would it demand to set his daughter free? Jake's heart thundered in his chest as he stumbled over the uneven ground, the shadows stretching their fingers around him like tendrils of smoke. Every step felt as if he were trudging through quicksand, time dragging behind him, while dread pooled in his stomach like a lead weight. The mine loomed ahead, dark and foreboding, a gaping mouth threatening to swallow him whole. "Emma!" His voice cracked, choked by panic. Each call echoed back, mocking his helplessness. Was this place answering him or just amplifying his anguish? The air turned cold, each breath crystallizing as if the desert itself were exhaling a chill that seeped into his bones. Jake edged closer to the mine, its entrance yawning like a monster ready to pounce. Inside, pinpricks of light flickered sporadically, illuminating the thick darkness that curled like smoke. The floor was littered with debris and rusted tools, evidence of those who once sought fortune, now resting in the silent abyss. He paused, feeling a prickling sensation at the back of his neck. Were those whispers he heard? Or just the wind? It was becoming hard to tell. Before he could process the fear coiling within him, the glimpses of movement caught his eye. Shadows flitted just beyond his vision, scattering like roaches when a light turns on there, a flash of a small figure. He squinted. Was it Emma? "Emma, please." The whispering intensified, mocking, curling around him at the edges of his sanity. He crawled closer, his heart racing, the sounds swirling in his mind into an agonizing spiral. Was his daughter laughing? Or crying? Everything felt like a cruel trick designed to break him. "Help!" a muffled voice floated back, petrified and pleading. He stumbled forward, terror surging through him like ice. "Emma!" He screamed again, but the earth swallowed his shout. The whispers twisted into laughter that hung heavy in the air. It vibrated like an ominous tune, and then a single laugh rang out, too innocent to belong in this accursed place. Goosebumps erupted on his skin. The shadows shimmered, thickening, almost corporeal now. Jake whirled around, disoriented. Behind him, the silhouettes of townsfolk hung at the edge of the mine's entrance, their eyes glinting like predators in the night. Their smiles were wider than before, filled with a hunger that made the hairs on his neck stand on end. "What do you want?" he gasped. They didn't speak, only continued to observe him with a chilling stillness, laughter spilling forth from their lips like a tidal wave of malice. "Just a little trade, Jake," one of them finally spoke, voice raspy, as if gravel had been ground into the words. "We take a child, we give mercy in return." Jake staggered back, heart racing. "You can't take her, she's innocent." The ground began to shift underfoot, as if the desert itself was coming alive, eager to reclaim what was lost. With a newfound determination, Jake fought against the dark web of their words, the cold fear enveloping him. But he knew now he wasn't merely fighting for Emma, he was battling against a sick ritual woven deep into the fabric of this forsaken town. The dread spread through him like venom. He turned back towards the mine, searching for any sign of his daughter amidst the shifting shadows, anxiety gnawing at him sharper than before. What if he was too late? What would the price be for a child in this haunted place? And then he saw them, small, delicate fingers grasping at something within the darkness. The ghostly outline of a child emerged, wreathed in shadow. A wave of relief washed over him, only for it to crash into despair as he realized it wasn't Emma. "Jake!" The voice called again, but now it felt wrong, manipulated by those around him. He had to act. Time was running out. But as he rushed forward, the shadows surged forward, blocking his way. A wall of darkness pressed in, suffocating, and behind those grinning faces, Jake saw something that froze the blood in his veins, a sight that made his breath hitch in sheer terror. The echoes of lost children joined the cacophony of whispers, pulling him deeper into despair. What choice would he make? Would he barter his own soul to save Emma, or would another child pay the price? The mind throbbed with urgency. Each moment stretched, tightening around him like a noose. And as he drew closer to the brink of the abyss, he felt the pull of the darkness whispering a promise of salvation. As desperation clawed at him, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was on the precipice of a choice that could change everything. What darkness awaited him on the other side? Jake's pulse raced, a frantic drumbeat in the silence that suffocated him. The air thickened with dread, wrapping around him like a vice. He could hear the whispers drawing closer, clawing at the edges of his mind. He took a step back, but the shadows advanced, eager to ensnare him in their cold embrace. "Jake, help me!" The scream sounded again, but now it was layered with something, an unearthly echo that twisted the desperation into fear, a mockery sent to lure him deeper. He swallowed hard, trying to block out the sickening laughter that sliced through the air. "Emma!" But no answer came. Only that twisted voice. Was it real, or a cruel illusion? The townsfolk's faces remained fixed, unyielding, those hungry smiles wide enough to swallow the sun. Had they always been like this? He couldn't remember the last time he had seen them without the veil of malice. Each moment stretched, heavy with unspoken promises and past sins. He felt himself being drawn in, like a moth to the flame. "Do you see her?" one of them hissed, stepping closer, features more defined in the flickering light. "It's a gift, isn't it? But the price, oh, the price." The words slithered around him, winding tighter and tighter, despair clawed at Jake's throat, choking his thoughts. He had no time to lose. He couldn't let fear dictate his next move. He needed to break through. He turned and lunged into the mine's mouth, plunging into the pitch black, letting instinct guide his steps. The darkness raged around him, heavy and clinging, but he pushed on, driven by desperation. Each footfall echoed in the confined space, the ground beneath crumbled under his weight. He stumbled over something sharp, a rusted spike jutting out from the walls. Was it another remnant of lost souls? Ignoring the pain, he pressed forward, knowing he had to find Emma. He strained his ears, listening for that sweet voice, but the laughter grew louder, a cacophony of lost hope. "Jake!" It came again, closer this time, but now accompanied by strange sounds, metal scraping, dragging, like the promise of something terrible unfolding near. His heart raced, dread pooling in the pit of his stomach. "Emmy, I'm here. Don't be scared," he shouted, though the words trembled and wavered, swallowed by the dark. The laughter faded for a moment, replaced by the scraping sound. He froze, breath hitching, the darkness feeling almost sentient, like a beast awakened. But then came the gasp, a deep breath clawing back to life amidst the cries of those lost. "Daddy!" He tore toward the sound, pulse pounding. Shadows flickered on the walls, the remnants of past horrors, faces twisted and pleading. Panic surged through him, pushing him faster. "I'm almost there," he gasped. With each footfall, the walls seemed to close in tighter, a morbid embrace promising no escape. As he turned a corner, he saw her 3 feet away, lit by a glow that danced like fireflies around her. Emma stood there, delicate and pale, a beacon amongst nightmares. His heart soared, but then plunged. In her hands lay a skeletal figure, another lost child, eyes dark and lifeless. The shadowy crowd moved closer, their eyes fixed on Emma, voices a low hum of frenzy mixed with laughter. "Take the deal, Jake," the raspy voice crooned, "we'll keep her safe." The glow around Emma flickered, and she looked at him, confusion etched on her small face. "Daddy, what is happening?" He shook his head, fighting against the tide. "Stay back," he cried, stepping forward. But it was too late for that. Both sides pulled at his heart, a choice looming larger than the darkness itself. For her freedom, would he have to sacrifice another? The shadows leaned in, and suddenly the shimmering glow of Emma dimmed, shadow swallowing light. "No! Don't!" He screamed, but the air felt heavy, constricting around his chest. The mind resonated with the weight of untold stories, secrets suffocated beneath layers of dirt and despair. It all felt like the earth was breathing, hungry for more. As the darkness pressed against him, the faint laughter danced in his ears, mingling with Emma's frightened whispers. He was losing grasp of everything, his choices, his sanity. With one last desperate cry, he lunged toward her, the ground giving way beneath him. What would he choose in this spiraling abyss of horror? Sacrifice? Desperation? The price had to be paid. And as the darkness clawed at his edges, Jake braced himself for the terrifying truth that could shatter everything. But just then, the whispers halted. An ominous silence took hold. Jake's breath caught. What now? He barely had the strength to whisper. Deep within the mine, something stirred, waiting for the final choice to unfold. The black swallowed him whole. Jake fell, tumbling through a chasm of shadow, the world above vanishing like a dream. Adrenaline threw his body into a panic-fueled scramble. He hit the ground hard, gritting his teeth against the pain. But the eerie chorus of laughter echoed around him, pinpricks of terror stabbing at his nerves. "Daddy?" The soft voice shimmered in the darkness, sounding more like a mirage than reality. Was she truly there? Anxiety twisted in his gut. "Emma, where are you?" He shouted, his voice a thin thread unraveling in the suffocating quiet. "No more games." The raspy voice slinked through the air, dripping with amusement. "You've come so far. It's time to decide." Jake turned, scanning the impenetrable blackness. He could feel the shadows shift and pulse, a living entity that breathed with each word. A sour, heavy smell wafted past, like decay mingling with fear. "Show yourself." Rage coursed through his veins, fueling him against the torturous atmosphere. A light flickered in the corner of his eye, a fragile glimmer, like a candle just about to snuff out. He lunged toward it, heart thundering. It was a pale hand emerging from the dark, trembling, reaching. Emma's eyes shone big and wet, teeming with an innocence he thought was lost. "Daddy," she breathed, but the shadows surged, eager to reclaim her light. "Hang on, Emma. I'm coming." He stretched out his arm, fingers brushing against her cool skin. But a force unlike anything he had ever encountered yanked him back, a sinister shadow laced with the cries of unspeakable horrors. A swirling mass of specters hovered, just out of reach, their faces grotesque and pleading. "Do you want her back?" The sinister voice let out a cold chuckle. "Then join us. Offer up a part of yourself, and the child becomes yours again." "What do you mean?" He stumbled back, grappling with despair and outrage. A sliver of clarity broke through the madness. He understood now. To save Emma, he'd have to relinquish something precious. Just a taste, a fragment of your soul. An easy trade. The specters danced, each face now twisting into a macabre grin. "Never!" Jake shouted, his heart racing with new fear. "I'd rather die than give in." A sudden wind howled through the cavern, swirls of dust and darkness converging around him. Shadows slashed at his skin, deep and intoxicating. Lost whispers grasped at his consciousness, pulling him into a dizzying spiral. He squeezed his eyes shut, trying to block out the sound, the pain, the memories. "Your choice will seal her fate," the voice sang through the tempest, mixing with Emma's own cries. "Stop it." He fell to his knees, hands clutching his hair, struggling against the pressure that threatened to crush him. "I want to let you take her." The laughter morphed into something more sinister, echoing off the walls. "Then let the darkness have its due. The curse demands its sacrifice." A flash ignited in his mind, a burnt image of Emma smiling, her tiny hands clutching a drawing he'd kept as a promise to protect her. Everything came crashing down, the heaviness of choices cascading outward like ripples in a pond. "Please, Emma, forgive me," he gasped, and at that moment, the shadows lunged, a ravenous beast descending. A blinding flash enveloped him, and the roar of the cave grew deafening. Jake reached for Emma again, the tremor of her fingers barely brushing against his. He felt her warmth slip away, consumed by a tidal wave of darkness. In that instant, he understood what true sacrifice meant: loss beyond measure, a price paid in anguish. As Jake's vision swirled in and out, the whispers changed, morphing from victorious laughter to something more chilling. "You wanted to save her, Daddy?" Emma's voice wavered as the shadows encroached, their insatiable hunger evident in their manic cries. And in that haunting moment, as Jake felt the darkness closing in, he realized some choices may bind you forever, even deeper than the abyss. Now, with everything he once cherished slipping through his fingers like sand, the question throbbed in his mind: could love be enough to break these chains, or were they already too far gone? The throbbing darkness pulsed around Jake, a living entity holding him hostage in its inky embrace. Fear clawed at his insides as he staggered, tormented by the failing light of Emma's presence flickering before him. Each breath tasted like ash, every heartbeat echoing the torment of loss that surged through him. The cave wasn't just dark, it was alive, an entity of despair, whispering temptations and threats alike. "Emma!" he screamed, desperation clawing at his throat. The cold void swallowed his voice, returning nothing but chilling silence, and then, from beyond the curtain of shadows, a flicker of light appeared again, this time brighter, almost blinding. It felt like hope, but Jake knew better than to trust what's cloaked in darkness. Sweat dripped from his brow as he fought against the pull of despair, forcing himself to move toward the light. "What do you want from me?" he cried, his voice low, trembling with the weight of his soul. "I won't give up my daughter." The air crackled with the electricity of his defiance, but he felt it waver, the dark laughter thundering in response. "Do you hear them?" the voice hissed, wrapping itself around his thoughts. The ones who waited, and waited, literally dying to find their way home. Shadows danced with malicious glee, painting disturbing images in his mind, faces he recognized interspersed with faces he didn't. Ghostly visages floated in the void, mouths moving silently, begging for salvation, pleading with hollow eyes. "Shut up!" he shouted, but the sound didn't hold the strength it needed to push them away. Choking cries echoed in his head, blending with the laughter. He pressed his hands to his temples, blocking the noise. "I'm not like you," he screamed, his voice snapping through the chorus. "I won't give in. Emma needs me." "Ah, but there is a price for love," the voice purred, dropping a heavy weight on his heart. "Every love demands sacrifice. What will you give for the chance? What will you lose, Jake?" The shadows melted closer, reeking of betrayal and infinite hunger. "Anything," he shouted, face damp with sweat, but as the words left his lips, he felt an unsettling twinge of panic. What did that mean? It echoed back, his own vow turning into a curse. The ground beneath him trembled, and he stumbled, feet catching on unseen roots of despair. The bright flicker flared again, this time revealing a horrific landscape of crimson, a blood-soaked wasteland surrounding an altar of shadows. Emma's cries blended with the dark whispers, growing louder, more frantic. "Daddy! Please!" Her voice was a fragile thread pulling him, tugging at his very soul that he grasped the air, desperation turning his heart into a drum against his ribs. "I'll save you!" he screamed, lunging toward her voice. But the altar loomed larger, shadows stretching for him, ready to consume what little light remained in the pit. "No, no, no!" Jake gasped, fighting against the tide of horror that surged forward. He had to reach her, had to save her. With a wild push, he climbed toward the echo of her laughter, though it was twisted now a mocking sound, drenched in anguish. Just as he felt the air shift, something grabbed his ankle, a cold grip, like fingers wrapped in ice. Jake yanked himself free, the force pulling him down like quicksand. "Let me go!" he kicked in fury, the darkness fighting back even harder as it pinned him closer to the altar. Emma's voice changed. "Daddy!" It wasn't just fear now, but something deeper. "Please, remember." A surge of memories flooded him, laughter at the park, bedtime stories, her first steps. His heart ached, and he realized then what he must do. With a roar, Jake turned his fury toward the shadows that coiled around him. "You want a sacrifice? Take me!" he bellowed, feeling the weight of his love for Emma surge forward. "No!" the voice hissed, flickers of panic shattering the laughter. "Your choice seals your fate." Light flared as he launched himself into the abyss, aiming for the shifting shadows that clung to Emma, the darkness howling in retaliation. The ground trembled, cracks splintering the air, and for a split second, he thought he saw her face, illuminated in pure, radiant light, but then it vanished, swallowed whole as his body was engulfed in pure blackness. The last thing he felt was a sharp pain in his chest, the echo of a choice made, binding him to the shadows, fracturing the hope that had once lived in their laughter. As he drifted down into the void, he clung to that last whisper, "Daddy?" Darkness wrapped around him, and as Jake's thoughts faded, a single question loomed ominously in the depths of his mind: would love survive even in the deepest darkness? Jake plunged into the abyss, the clutches of darkness tightening around him. It was no longer just a cave, it was a living nightmare, relentless in its grasp. The suffocating blackness shifted, threatening to swallow him whole, as if the very air had conspired against him. "Emma!" He cried out again, his voice now a ghost lost in the void. Panic coursed through him like ice through his veins. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown. Suddenly, the shadows flickered, revealing a glimpse of twisted shapes, chaotic forms that echoed the faces from before. They clung to him, their hollow eyes filled with ancient sorrow and insatiable hunger. It was a cacophony of desperate whispers, they tangled around him like vines, pulling him deeper into their realm of despair. "Help us," they murmured, their voices melding into a chilling melody that resonated through the darkness. Names, familiar and foreign alike, ghosted through his mind: friends, family, all asking for deliverance. He closed his eyes, fighting back tears of confusion and desperation. "I can't." The images flashed faster, their pitiful pleas growing louder. Emma's face seared into his memory. Her bright smile, the way her laugh rang like a melodious bell. That memory was the one thread of hope he dared to hang on to. "Daddy, it's so dark, I'm scared." Her voice cut through the whispers like a knife. Jake's heart raced. Every fiber of his being screamed for him to act, to push through the despair. With a sudden surge of determination, he forced his eyes open, igniting an inner fire. "I won't abandon you," he shouted, channeling all his strength into those words. The shadows recoiled momentarily, the whispers faltering in their ominous chorus. "No." The voice echoed back, a deep rumble, "You're more than just a father, you are their light, and we crave the light." He felt their grasp loosening, but it didn't last. The darkness tightened its grip around his throat, squeezing until his breath came in sharp gasps. Memories kept rushing in: bright days, warm embraces, all contrasted against the crushing weight of despair. The price of love, he thought, gripping the final threads of sanity. Emma's face glimmered in his mind, and in that moment, he knew what he had to do. He couldn't let her scream for him from this wretched void. His sacrifice was not just for her, it might free the lost souls that wandered, trapped between realms. "Take me," he yelled out defiantly. "I'll give every last piece of me. Just let her go." The shadows twisted, anger radiating from them like heat. Jake could feel the surge of power in their whispers, the uncertainty creeping in. Could he create a fissure of light amongst the encroaching dark? It was a gamble, a harrowing bet against the horrifying fate that loomed before him. The shadows shrieked, a horrid cacophony resonating through the abyss, the walls shuddering with rage. Raw energy crackled in the air, and then he felt it: a tremor, a shift, a glimpse of something vibrating against the suffocating dark. A light began to break, the glimmer of hope illuminating through the cracks of despair. "Do it, Jake. Reach for her." A voice thundered, shattering the silence. But which voice was it? Was it a calling or a betrayal? Just as he felt propelled toward it, the shadows swept in with renewed fury, lashing out like angry serpents. They lunged at him, intent on snatching the warmth of love from his very soul. Jake gasped as he stumbled backward, pain shooting through him while darkness clawed at the edges of his sanity. He had forged his path, but would it lead to Emma? Or would it seal his fate, entangling him forever in this realm of lost souls? The light flickered once more, piercing through the veil, daring him to reach out, to trust, to hope. But Jake hesitated, the weight of doubt hung thick in the air, chilling him. Then all went still. Time paused, holding its breath. The question loomed in the silence, sharper than any dark whisper: would he risk everything to step into the light, knowing it could cost him everything, including Emma? Jake's heart hammered in his chest, drowning out the whispers that swirled ominously around him. The cold, oppressive dark draped over him like a heavy shroud, but something within him flared a blend of desperation and fierce love. That flickering light beckoned him, its warmth fighting against the chilling despair that gripped him. "Emma!" He cried out again, his voice breaking through the stagnant air, a raw plea echoing off unseen walls. He squeezed his eyes shut, drawing strength from the depths of his soul. "I'm coming for you." The darkness pulsed around him, driven by a terrifying will of its own. As if understanding his defiance, the shadows lashed out, striking Jake's arms and legs. Pain shot through him, igniting adrenaline. He stumbled forward, desperate to escape their grasp. With every step he took, the light shimmered brighter, promising solace. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, its shape obscured by layers of darkness. Jake's breath hitched. It was a woman, her face familiar yet twisted, a blend of the past and something far more sinister. "You're looking for her? You won't like what you find," she hissed, a smile creeping across her lips that pierced through the veil of hope. "Leave her alone!" Jake shouted, his voice imbued with the courage he clung to like a lifebuoy. The figure laughed, a hollow, mirthless sound that sent a shiver down his spine. "Do you not see? She is not lost, she is part of this." The woman gestured wide, encompassing the darkness, her malicious laughter ringing through the void. "You're fighting for something that might already belong to us." Memories raced through Jake's mind, days spent racing through sunlit fields, Emma's laughter echoing as they splashed in puddles, her innocent joys. These memories held a weight that anchored him, pulling him against the gravitational pull of the shadows. "No!" he screamed, shaking his head violently. "You won't have her." The intense spark of anger ignited something within, pushing him forward. He would not let this creature unravel his love for his daughter. The shadows writhed, splitting open like cracks in glass. The image of Emma glimmered in that chasm, her small hand reaching out toward him. "Daddy, help me!" Jake felt his resolve strengthen. He lunged toward the light, forcing himself to ignore the grasping tendrils. Every instinct told him to turn back, to retreat into safety, but he plunged forward, driven by pure determination. Just then, the dark woman lunged at him, eyes wild with fury. "Fool! You cannot escape!" she screeched, her fingers grazing his arm. A shock of agony radiated from the contact, filling him with cold fear. But he felt the warmth of the light, burning fiercely, urging him on. The closer he got, the more the shadows shrieked, their inhuman voices intertwining into an anguished chorus. He reached out, pushing through the nagging doubt, as the terrible weight of the darkness fought against him. With a final surge, he burst forth, diving into that radiant glow. The sensation was overwhelming, a blissful warmth wrapping around him like a blanket. But there was no immediate relief. The light flickered violently. Jake squinted, and beneath the brightness, he realized something horrifying. The warmth didn't just envelop him, it bent, twisting, trying to pull him apart. It was a trap. "Help!" Jake screamed, feeling the shadows clawing at his edges, threatening to drag him back into the nightmare. The woman's wicked laugh echoed around him as the light shimmered ominously. It was both refuge and prison. In the chaos, a glimmer of something caught his eye, another figure, blinking into existence and beckoning. Jake's heart dropped, the recognition dawning slowly. Emma? But before he could understand the revelation breaking upon him, the darkness surged again, a final, desperate grip that threatened to drag him back into its depths. Jake's breath hitched. What had he truly stepped into? As the shadows converged, blending the light and dark, he knew one thing: time was running out. He had to act, but how could he trust his instincts when everything was so twisted? Where was the line between salvation and damnation? With panic coursing through him, He realized he faced the ultimate decision: leap blindly back into that beckoning light or risk everything to save her once and for all. Would he dare to embrace the truth that stared back at him, knowing it could seal their fates forever? The world around Jake warped, stretching and twisting, distorting reality into something unrecognizable. Light and dark pulsed violently, the air thick with an intoxicating dread that gripped his throat. He could barely breathe. 1 second, he was certain Emma was right there, just out of reach, and the next, she flickered like a dying star, her form wavering amid the chaos. "Daddy! Please!" Her voice echoed, each plea a bitter reminder of his helplessness. The desperation clawed at his insides, a gnawing hunger that demanded action. He had to choose, but the decision gnawed at him like a festering wound: jump headfirst into that searing light or fight the shadows to reclaim his daughter. "Don't you see?" The woman's voice slithered into his mind like poison. "You can't win. She belongs to us now." Her twisted smile broadened, revealing teeth too sharp, too jagged, set against a backdrop of shifting despair. "Embrace the darkness." It would be so easy. The shadowy tendrils twisted around him, tightening like a noose, begging him to relent. Jake shook his head, fire igniting in his stomach, propelling him forward. "No. Emma is mine," he roared, his voice drowning out the chaos around him. With a surge of adrenaline, he leaped back toward the blinding light, surrendering himself fully to its grasp. The warmth intensified, swirling, wrapping tighter as he fought against the urges of the dark. But as he pushed through, it morphed around him, and an unsettling realization began to root itself in his mind. What if this light was just as ensnaring as the shadows? A gut-wrenching scream erupted from somewhere deep within the folds of darkness, and Jake froze. Was it Emma? Was she in pain? No, he couldn't. He wouldn't listen to the shadows. He had to keep pressing ahead. But self-doubt crept in slowly, wrapping around his resolve like the shadows that sought to engulf him. "Come on, Emma!" he screamed into the void, trying to drown out the suspicion. "We're getting out together." Just then, the light pulsed, revealing Emma's anguished face within its brightness. It flickered there, a ghost of what he knew, desperately reaching for him with outstretched arms. But the expression twisted into that same sinister smile he had seen on the dark woman. "Daddy, help me," she whispered again, but this time her tone was a mixture of sorrow and something darker, something almost mocking. His heart plummeted. What was he looking at? Was that really her? A chilling thought crept in, slithering through the cracks of his mind. What if he was looking at a deceit, a shadow of Emma, crafted from his memories and desperate love? "No, no. You're not real," he shouted against the torment, his voice wavering as doubt clawed at him. The shadows surged, sensing his hesitation as their laughter rose, a cacophony of despair and dark triumph. "Face it, Jake, you can't trust her. They will swallow you both." The dark woman's taunts surrounded him, a chorus of agonized memories. Jake's breath quickened. He felt the very ground beneath him shift, edges of reality fraying like an old tapestry. The choice pressed down, an unbearable weight. Would he risk everything for a sliver of hope or succumb to the insidious call of the dark, believing a lie? "Emma!" he called again, plunging deeper into the pulsing light, every ounce of his being screaming to fight off the shadows. But what if he fell for the illusion? The fabric of the light quivered as he wrestled with his instincts. And as he descended once more, the shadows began to ripple, warped forms rising, ready to devour his courage. In a single heartbeat, Jake realized what the choice before him truly meant. Salvation hung by a thread, and every moment that passed dimmed the light a little more. Would he trust the fading glimmer of hope, or would he become part of the darkness forever? Jake's world twisted and condenses further as he fought against the suffocating shadows. The oppressive weight of doubt pressed like a hand around his neck. What if the light was a trap? The thought curled within him, threatening to unravel everything he believed in. As he moved deeper into the brightness, the ghostly semblance of Emma flickered again, barely maintaining her shape. "Daddy, why won't you help me?" Her voice trembled, the sweetness of a child distorted into something chilling. The shadows pulsed, alive with their sinister promises, vying for his attention, whispering in seductive tones. "Join us, Jake. Embrace the truth. I want tea," he screamed, though uncertainty wrapped around him like a shroud. Each echo of his voice felt like a plea, almost begging for validation. His heart raced, hammering against his ribs as he pushed harder into the light. He could almost feel Emma's warmth reaching for him, but something deep down screamed that this was too real. Dark form slithered around the edges, creeping closer as the brightness began to flicker. A grim realization crept in: if he didn't make a choice soon, both he and Emma would be lost. "Choose, Jake. Choose." The woman's voice echoed through the vast emptiness, cutting through him like a blade. He could feel the shadows attempting to invade his mind, wrapping his thoughts with their chilling touch. "Don't listen to them," he thought fiercely, but it felt like a fragile defense against the relentless tide. "Emma!" he bellowed again, desperation rising like bile in his throat. He pressed forward, every fiber of his being focused on the warmth, the hope of her face not turning cold and hollow like the shadows. But doubt wouldn't abandon him. The flickering intensified light and dark tangoed like frenetic lovers, teasing him with hope while threatening to pull him down into despair. With each heartbeat, he flew deeper, but before long, the shadows began to ignite, swirling in a violent tempest, and Jake had to wrestle with fear again, feeling his core shatter under the weight. A sickly laugh rippled through the shadows, gnashing teeth and mocking every glimmer of faith he clung to. "We are your reality, Jake. She is lost to you." The light exploded, blinding him for an instant. He covered his eyes, feeling his soul wrestle with the pressure. And then, as the brightness dimmed, he uncovered his eyes to see Emma standing there, but every inch of her face punctured with fear and darkness. "Daddy, I'm scared." "I know, sweetheart, I'm coming," he shouted, as resolve ignited through him once more, propelling him forward. He had grown close enough now that he could almost touch her, just a few steps away. But with each inch he tried to gain, the void around him shrieked an agonized chorus, sensing his renewed strength. "Foolish man!" the dark woman erupted within the shadows. "You'll never reach her. The darkness is far more powerful." As her voice reached a fever pitch, a sharp pain sliced across Jake's chest. He stumbled back, caught off guard, while the shadows erupted, clawing at him with urgency. "Fight it, Jake!" Emma's wider eyes beseeched him, rippling between brightness and shadow. He could feel the edge of desperation now, but the choice distorted further. He could lose it all by aiming for the light or succumb to the dark to keep Emma close. "No! I'll save you!" he roared, thrusting himself forward with all the strength he had left, but as he reached for her, everything shattered into darkness. In that split second, Jake felt as if he'd broken through the very fabric of reality. The cursed laughter of the shadows echoed in his mind, wrapping him in a cold embrace. But just as he felt himself give in, something in him flickered a final thread of belief. Trapped in a whirlwind of chaos, Jake swirled in confusion. Where was Emma? Where was the light? As silence enveloped him, a pulse echoed in the void. A heartbeat, faint but undeniable, taunting him from the darkness. Would that pulse herald his daughter's heartbeat or signal his own impending doom? The darkness closed in, wrapping around Jake like a suffocating blanket. Time twisted oddly, bending around him, but beneath the pulse of dread was something else, a flicker of warmth, a reminder of his daughter. "Emma!" he shouted, a raw edge in his voice. Every ounce of love surged through him, dispelling the whispering doubts like vapor. The shadows were powerful, but so was his love. He focused on that heartbeat, steady and serene amidst the turmoil. With each breath, he imagined Emma's laughter echoing through the dark, urging him forward through the void. He refused to let despair drown the light. He had suffered long enough. "I won't lose you," he cried, pushing past the paralysis of the shadows, willing his body to move. The oppressive weight lifted slightly, the shadows hissed and shrieked but could not drag him back. Was that the sound of Emma's laughter he heard, melding with the cries of those lost? Fueled by her memory, Jake stumbled on through the swirling blackness, fighting against the discordant symphony that sought to drown him. "You will not possess my child," he yelled, searching for her face among the chaos. Suddenly, a flicker of light flared ahead. He hurtled toward it, propelled by love stronger than fear. The light bathed him in warmth, and for the first time, the shadows shrank back, shrieking in fury. He burst through the constricting barrier, spilling into a realm illuminated by shimmering fragments, light dancing like silver stars set free from the chains of despair. Daddy, Emma's voice drifted through the sparkling air. There she was, small but radiant, her face glowing with innocence. Jake's heart soared as he ran toward her, arms open wide, but something held him back. The remnants of the darkness gripped at his legs, slithering around him as if trying to pull him into the shadows once more. "I'm here," he cried, forcing himself against the clinging grip. "Just hold on." Emma's eyes widened, and she reached for him. "Please don't let them take me." With renewed strength, Jake fought against the darkness, pouring his essence into his desperation to break free. The shadows writhed and twisted, desperate to reclaim what they believed was theirs. "I won't let that happen," he roared. A violent wind spiraled, pulling at him, threatening to tear him apart as the weight of the darkness pressed against him, but he kept moving forward, toward Emma's light. She reached out, her tiny hands glowing as they bridged the gap between them. "Take my hand, Emma." With one last push, he lunged forward, seizing her small fingers. The moment their hands met, an explosion of light erupted, blinding him momentarily. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in agony as they faded, torn by the warmth of their bond. Together, they surged upwards into the freedom of light, the fractures of the darkness collapsing around them. As the last tendrils of shadow disintegrated, Jake felt a dizzying rush of euphoria and relief wash over him. The world spun, colors brightening, landscapes unfurling before them in incredible beauty. The despair that had weighed him down for so long shattered like glass, revealing a horizon filled with hope and promise. "Daddy, we did it!" Emma squealed, her laughter ringing sweetly in the air. Jake's heart swelled as he knelt down to embrace her, enveloping her in warmth. In that moment, he marveled at her strength, her resilience, and the way love had shattered the curse. "I fight the darkness 1,000 times to keep you safe," he breathed, his voice thick with emotion. As they embraced, the world around them shifted softly, a gentle reminder of what they had escaped. The horrors, the whispers, the fear all faded behind them. The desert now lay far away, a distant memory, while they walked hand in hand toward a brighter future. This was just the beginning, a new chapter untainted by shadows. Together, they would thrive in this newfound light, bound by a love that even the darkest forces couldn't sever. With a grin, Jake looked down at Emma, who smiled back, an innocent girl full of promise, free from the weight of the cursed sands. And as they stepped into their new life, a sense of peace settled in Jake's heart. He had faced the night, survived the darkness, and emerged with love as his greatest weapon. Now it was time for the world to know their story. You need to subscribe now for more exclusive stories that will send shivers down your spine. Smash that like button right now to support the channel and keep this series alive. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. Let us hear what you think about how this saga concludes. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling conclusion. Show your support and join the journey today.